Sometimes you have a bride that is indecisive and she can't decide if she wants to have her hair all up or all down. So today's look is going to be a great option for that bride. We have a half up, half down look, and it will keep it softer on the front of her face and off of her face at the same time. So it's not going to be in her way when she's dancing the night away. My model today has really long hair, so it will work great for her. But if you do have a bride or a bridesmaid who doesn't have enough hair for this, I'll make sure to show you where to put extensions in so you can achieve the look for that person as well. So to get started, we are going to brush through her hair. I'm going to prep it with some flexible hold hairspray, and then I'm going to section it out so you can see exactly how to begin. So I'm using flexible hold hairspray and bring it through all of her hair just to give it a little prep to start. Brush through with the paddle brush so it's not crunchy when I actually start curling it. I also use this time to evaluate her hair, her head shape, where I want to section, how I want to part it, and if I need any other additional products for her hair type. So the first section I'm going to do is from the top of her hair down to the top of her ear on each side. Section this out, and then you can clip it away. And then the same thing on the other side. Then I'm going to take a section at the top of her head on the crown, and I'm just going to round it out a little bit. It doesn't have to be super neat, but I want it to be the very top of her head, and this is what we're going to use to create texture and volume at the top of our updo. And then I'll do one last section from the top of her ear straight across the back of her head. So then you have a middle section, you have the crown, and then the front that's flipped away. And this is the section that we'll begin with. Okay, so to start out, we want to take a look at how much hair she has here. And her hair isn't super thick, so I'm going to make 3 horizontal sections and start my curling. So we'll take a third of it from the bottom, and I'm going to pin this up to the top there. I'm going to spray it first and add a little texture spray to her root, and then comb through before I curl. Divide this in 2 sections, and I'm going to curl this side in towards the middle of her back, and then this side in towards the middle of her back. Once I release the curl, I'm not going to touch it because I want it to cool down completely before I move on to the next section. We'll go through and divide this in half. Start your next section. Now this has a lot more hair, so I want to make sure that I have enough hairspray on and texture spray to saturate through. I'm spraying the texture spray at the root because I'm going to back comb a little bit. So I'll just go underneath the hair and back comb at the root to get a little bit of volume, and then comb through this section as well. And with this section, I'm going to use 4 sections to curl. So I'll start on one side and do 2 sections going in and 2 going in this way. Before I start this last section of the bottom, I'm going to spray this out with texture spray because I'm going to actually back comb through all of this, and I want to have grip on the curls to be able to hold the back comb. And then you can take out your final section and repeat the same process. Texture spray on the root and flexible hold hairspray, and I'm going to comb it before I curl it. gonna spray with texture spray because all of this is going to be back comb. Now that you have the bottom curled and ready to go, we're gonna start by doing some back combing through the middle section, and then we'll start to pin it into each other. So what I'm gonna do is go through and I'm gonna back comb the 2 curls that are in the middle, and then I'm gonna pin them to themselves because we always wanna have a base for any updo that we do. Every time you're pinning and bringing in curls, you want something to anchor it to, and so the back combing is gonna really make a great anchor for the curls to pin in and to make sure it stays and it lasts all night. So I'm gonna show you now how to go through and back comb in a really clean way and then start to pin in a way that you're not gonna see the pins when the updo is all said and done. So the first thing I'm gonna do is clip this section away, so I just have the bottom 2 sets of curls. I'll just put this up here for now. And I'm gonna actually use my fingers to comb through it a little bit so it's soft. And then I'm gonna use a wide tooth comb. So I'll take the wide tooth comb, take the middle section here. I'm just going to back comb really gently. So I'm taking it underneath, back combing the whole way down. So it looks a little messy to start, but you're gonna be pinning into that, so that is okay. You wanna make sure the hairs come together. So you can see how they're kind of sticking together like that. And I'm gonna do a little bit of hairspray on top. And then take this section down and do the same thing. So we'll go underneath and back comb. And I'm holding it pretty loosely at the bottom so I can get these curls to kind of come together like that. And then we'll do the outside pieces. So all I'm gonna do is a little bit on the inside. So you can see I'm doing it right on the inside of the hair like this, really loosely. And then same on this side, loosely on this as well. We'll give it a little bit of flexible hold hairspray. And you can see how this is already a section that we can start to anchor to. So what I'll do is I'll take my pin and start sort of halfway down. And I'm just gonna grip it all together and use the pin almost like a sewing needle and go into the hair and kind of weave it back and forth into that back combing. Wants to roll and lay in. I'll take the pin, grab the hair, and then I'm just gonna weave it in and out like I did with the bottom pieces too. So then it's anchored to the base that we made down here. So you can see how it's already starting to come together and forming a base. Then I'll just finish this section with hairspray and bring these side pieces in a little bit and make sure it looks how I want it to look at the bottom. Kind of use your fingers to pull pieces apart where you need to and make sure it's smooth and not messy. The more you touch it, the messier it gets. So you want to just be really careful with how much you're handling the hair. That is the bottom section. And if you need more sections because the hair is thick, that's fine. Use 4 or 5 sections, just depending on how loose you want the curls to be. If you want it to be more of a soft look, a boho look, or if you want it to be a really tight polished look, you can use a smaller curling iron, smaller sections, and just vary it up that way. The next section that we're gonna do is this middle section. And so here is where we wanna start to create a little more volume, where this section we don't need much volume down here. This is just to create a nice base. So with this one, I'm gonna go through and do the same technique where I'm going horizontally, taking sections, curling them, but I'm gonna do more focus on back combing at the base and root of her hair to get a little bit of lift here. That way when I start to pull this hair down, I'll already have some texture and some volume right here to use. And just take a horizontal section. And again, if you're using extensions, this is where you would place your extension. And we're gonna go through and do the same thing. So I'm gonna be spraying it, combing it, and then curling in towards the center. You can see I'm doing a little bit more of an aggressive back comb. I want to have a little more volume in this space. Give them a little bit of a hairspray just so they hold, and don't touch them again until we come back to start pinning. That way they'll get to set and the curls will last longer. Now that we have the hair all curled and ready to go, I'm gonna start pinning this section into the base that we created. See where the center is. So I'm gonna gather all the hair into the center. I'm gonna give it a little twist and sort of see how that looks with the bottom. If I like it, then I can pin it here. If the hair is really thick, I would recommend doing it in 2 sections. So I'll do that today so you can see what that looks like. So I'm gonna take it in my hand, do a little bit of texture spray because I want this hair to be able to hold and stick nicely to the bottom. So if you take all the curls, bring them in the way that you curled them, and spray the texture spray on it, then they'll naturally start to fall in the place that you'd like. So you can start to see how it's gonna turn out before you actually start doing any pinning. And that's really helpful to start to get the shape of the updo that you want. So I can see that this kind of wants to fall in that way. So I'm gonna do this section first. We're gonna twist. And I'm gonna pin it in to the base that I made in the beginning. And with her hair, actually, I could probably divide it into 4 just to make sure that they don't slide out. So I'll start with the middle and turn the hair in. And then I'm gonna do that weaving technique once again. So I'll take the pin, grasp the hair, hold the hair that's underneath it, and weave it in and out and in and out. You can see how that's nice and anchored to the hair below. Same thing on the other side. So something to keep in mind when you're pinning is to make sure that you're working evenly and with balance. So you go back and forth. So if I take a piece from this side, then I want to go back and take a piece from this side. I'm going to go into the base and once again weave. And so that's holding really, really nicely, even though this is a really soft down style. Do a little bit of flexible hold hairspray to make it stay. Then I'll go back to this side. I'm going to curl, pull the curls in and do the same thing that I did with the middle section. I'm going to weave this in as well. At this point, I'm starting to hit some other bobby pins in there, which is actually a good thing because that's even a stronger anchor than if you didn't have that going on. And since this is on the outside, I want to make sure that back combing doesn't show, so I'm just going to comb through it just slightly before I pin it. And then let the curl fall naturally. And once again, do the weaving technique. And then the same thing on this side. Once you have those all pinned, you want to kind of step back and take a look at it and see where you need a little more balance. For me, this side's a little heavy, so I want to take this piece here and I'm going to pull this in and pin it into the bottom. Something to really keep in mind as well as you're doing any updo is just to take a step back and look at how it's turning out and seeing if it's balanced. And once you have it how you like it, then you can put a little more flexible hold hairspray in. Now we're going to move to the top, and this is where we're going to work on more detailing and be more precise with our curls and where we place the curls. We have enough hair down here that's solid to be able to pin the rest of the top into it to make sure it's going to stay all night. Think worst case scenario, if things started to fall out, what would be left? And so at a wedding, she's dancing the night away and some of these pieces start to fall out, that's fine because all this is structured so that this hair has a place to fall and lay in a really soft and natural way. Okay, so now we're onto the top section, and this is the part that everyone's gonna see, that she's gonna see from the front, so it's really important that this is perfect. I'm gonna take it down and just start by brushing through it, and I'm gonna go through and do texture spray through the whole crown because I do wanna have some grip and I wanna have texture and I wanna have volume. So I'll spray at the roots and then take a horizontal section and spray here as well. If you're using extensions, you may or may not want to put some here. If they're clip-in extensions, you don't want to see the clips, so it's better often to keep them at the bottom and not use as much up here, but if you need to have a few if the hair is really fine, just be mindful that you can see the clips if it's at the front of the hair rather than tucked in behind. Okay, so and take these horizontal sections and do more curling. bit, and then comb through so it's not crunchy. And also give it a little bit of back combing here as well. So you have a little bit of lift. I'm taking smaller sections at the top because I want to be able to see the curls more at this point. So I'll take smaller sections as I work. But I'm still gonna do the technique where I'm curling in towards the center of her head on this side and then the same on the other. A lot of mistakes that people make at this point is they will have curled the whole head first and then tried to start doing the style. You can see how that could get really messy. So if you curl it all first and then pin things away and then start working at the bottom, all this will get messed up. So I really like to go section by section, which helps keep my work really clean and helps me to make it look really detailed and more intricate. And also it saves you time because sometimes you don't have to curl as much as you think that you do because a lot of hair is hidden away. So I always recommend working section by section and not starting out with curling it all at once. Now that you have the whole crown done, I'm going to do some texture spray throughout, just because I want to pull these curls out and make them look really soft and detailed, and texture spray helps with that. And then I'm going to use a comb that has a pick at the top, because this is the part where everyone's going to see. So I want to smooth over some of that back combing. And you can decide here is if you want to have a lot of texture in here and have it be more of an undone look, or if you want it to be really smooth and polished. So that's up to you and your bride. And you also want to think about veils at this point too. So does she have a super heavy veil? Is she having a hair accessory? Usually they're going to go around this spot, so you want to just think about where you're going to put that and decide how much lift that you want. So I'm good with just what we have here, which is just, you can see a little bit of lift, but not too much. Now what we're going to do here is take a look at the hair and how much you want to have pinned in, how much you want to have down, what kind of look you want to have. And so for her, I want it to be mostly back. And so I'm just going to use my fingers to pull through it a little bit and soften the curls so they look a little more natural. And then I'm going to start by taking the center. I'm just going to twist it slightly. I'm going to anchor the middle with a pin. So you can even use your pin to kind of pull through in the way that you want. Give it a little bit of a twist. And I'm going to go towards her head and then back in. That way I have a little bit of a twist here. And I'll take this side and cover that pin by pulling it over. So as I work, I kind of want to pull it out and make it loose and soft. And that's where the texture spray helps. Because I have the texture spray and her hair wants to pull and look more textured than if I didn't have any product in at all. And if you use too much hairspray, it'll actually just be sticky and not pull out really nicely. Kind of see how that's falling. So at this point you want to just follow the hair and follow the curls and see where you want them. So I just like to hold the hair loosely and kind of play around with it and see where it wants to go. So like with this piece, I'll twist it in a little bit. And I like how that looks. So you can also use a little more texture spray on a curl. And that way, when you pull it out, it kind of holds its shape and you can see the dimension in the curl. It looks really pretty. And then you just always want to be pinning under. So I'm taking my pin, opening it, and pinning under the curl and up into the updo rather than on top, because you don't want to see a bunch of pins. And then for this piece too, I'll actually go into the middle of the curl and pin it into the updo there. So if you look at it and you're like, yeah, this is good, this is where I want it to be, then do a little flexible hold hairspray to keep the style that you picked so far. Now I want this bottom to come together a little bit more. I don't want it to look like a ponytail. So I'm gonna take these curls and form them a little bit more like this, and I'm gonna pin it into the base so they stay put. So this one wants to go this way, so all I'm gonna do is open the pin, go into the curl, and anchor it to the base. So I'm doing that weaving technique again. I'll do the same thing on this side. So these curls kind of want to go more in this direction. I'll smooth them out and then take the pin and go inward. I like how that looks a little bit better. All right, now that you've completed the crown and the top, all you have left is the front. So we're going to take down the hair in front of the ears. I'm going to curl each section. Also at this point, stop, look in the mirror, make sure the front is where your bride wants it to be. If it needs to be higher, if she wants it more smooth, kind of figure out those details at this point, because once you do the very front, it's hard to go back. And so I really recommend having a check-in with the bride at this point, seeing if everything's where she wants it, and then going back and doing the front part of the hair. So I'm going to take this section out, and then I'm going to do vertical sections this time. So for her hair, she has finer hair in the front. So I'll do one section here, another section here, and then the very front section. If the hair is really thick, you can do more than that, but hers is fairly fine. If you want a little bit more lift, you can go through at the top here and start the curl closer to the base of her scalp. Another vertical section, do the same thing. With this, I'm going to do two. So I'll do this piece that's going to be in front, and I'm actually going to leave this out. And then this piece as well will curl. And I'm actually going to switch to the other side to let that set. Again, the reason being is because I really want the curls to last in the front, and if you let them cool down completely, you're going to have a better long-lasting updo. Since this is her thicker side, I'm going to still take vertical sections, but I'm going to do them in two parts. So I'll take the bottom part first and then the top part, and curling it away from her face. Another trick that I like to do is if they have really short hair in front, a lot of people have a lot of breakage, you can use a flat iron to get a curl that can get closer to the scalp, and sometimes you can get a better curl than getting your big curling iron in close to the head. And I always put my hand here just because when you're working close to the face, you never want to burn your client. Yes, especially on the wedding day. So you never know if someone's going to bump you or something. So I always hold my hand right here just in case. And then I'm going to divide this in two as well, just because I want to make sure that it gets a good curl. If you take too much hair, then it's not going to hold the curl as well. Spray this a little bit. Some people want a lot of volume in front. If that's the case, you can do the same technique as we did in back by putting some texture spray at the root and back combing a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna go back to this side. I'm gonna use my fingers to just comb through it a little bit so you can see how it just is naturally, softly going back in a really pretty way. So you just wanna follow the hair, really. So as I see how this piece is going, I see that that looks nice there. So I'm actually gonna spray it before I pin it, just to help keep it in place. And then see if I want any looser and kind of figure out exactly where I want the height to be. I want it to be pretty low. So I'm gonna open my pin, go on the inside of the curl, lift up a curl that I already have and go under so we don't see any pins. You can kind of pull it out if you need it to be a little bit looser. I'll do the same thing for this piece. Just kind of see naturally where it wants to go. Open a pin and then go underneath curls that I had previously pinned. I'll leave these out for now and come back to them. Go back to this side. I'm gonna do the same thing. So I'll sort of comb through it with my fingers a little bit and see where it wants to lay. That looks pretty good. So I'm just gonna use the hairspray to hold it back and kind of go in the angle that I want. And see where I want it to go. So I'll go with the curl, open my pin. I'm gonna go up and under previous curl so you don't see that pin. And if you need to, you can always take more pins and anchor it in. So you'll put the pin straight in and then you can kind of go up like that. And that way, this hair still stays really soft and natural looking, but it's pinned and it's not gonna fly away. And at this point too, you can be looking in the mirror with your bride and asking how much hair they wanna have down and left out around their face. I really like how that looks. So I'll open my pin and then again, I'm gonna go in underneath the rest of them. I like it. Give it a little bit of spray. And then turn to the back and see where these pieces are. At this point, you can use hairspray if you want to just tuck them in, or you can actually use a pin to pin in those ends depending on how they look, or if the hair is damaged in the back too and you don't want to show those ends in the front. Now turn around to the front and kind of see how the hair is. And I see that this feels a little bit long to me, so I'll just take this one and pin this one back. So that's where you can kind of play and decide what you like, what your bride likes. The whole thing is basically done. Give the bride a mirror, have her see the back, all angles, all sides before you touch it or do anything else. If she loves it, then you want to take a shine spray and do shine spray all over it. So I'm going to go through, do some shine spray, and then I'm going to finish with a hard hold hairspray. So I don't use hard hold hairspray until the very end. It's really hard to work through once it's done, once you have it in. So I just use this to smooth any flyaways, make sure that it's really clean along the side here and you don't have any back combing showing. Hold the curl out and make sure that these are really sprayed good because that's got to last all night. And just go through and make sure there's not any ends that are sticking out that shouldn't be. So you can just use your finger, you can use a comb, making sure it's exactly what you want. And then teach your bride not to touch it. That will also help.